Hey everyone, welcome to Remap. My name is Jared, and today I want to take a look at Quantum Break by Remedy Entertainment. Studio that's been around quite a while. You know, they had Alan Wake quite a few years ago, Control most recently, but back in 2016 they had Quantum Break. Really interesting game that I had a blast replaying through recently, and I just want to talk about it real quick. You know, give my review of the game and then, recap what I thought about a very unique story. But first, just a couple disclaimers. These are obviously my opinions and mine alone. And I played this game on the Xbox Series X. Okay, I installed it on the internal drive, so the loading times, were absolutely phenomenal. That's really been the one of the joys of playing older Xbox One games on the Series X. You know, when I put it on the internal drive, like the loading screens are just insanely quick, which is just great because there's nothing worse than sitting through a 30-second or 2-minute long loading screen, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I just want to talk about the review first. You know, this is going to be spoiler free. Obviously, I'm going to purposely leave out, any and all plot points. The only sort of plot related thing I'm going to talk about is literally like in the description of the game. So, there's going to be no spoilers there. And then I'll have plenty of stuff later for those who have played it, because I really want to talk about, the story at a later point. But if you don't already know, this is a really unique game in that it's combined with a TV show, and I don't mean a TV show as in, they ran some stuff in engine, they got some cool character models, they did some mocap, blah, blah, blah. No, I mean literally, like, part of this game is a live action TV show. Like, between each act, there are, like, the voice actors for each character are literally in live action set pieces, And I thought the casting was pretty great for this, because a lot of times, you get some people that, specialize in voice acting. Maybe they don't do a lot of, acting on like TV shows or movies, but it was a really good cast, a really interesting cast. You'll recognize a lot of people from this game from different TV shows, and it was a really interesting combination they had there. But I'm just going to jump right into my review real quick. Thank you for listening to my big ol' intro. But I just want to first start out with just how impressed I was with this game visually. This is a 2016 release. It holds up really well. Obviously, it's not going to be a silky smooth 60 FPS or 120, but visually, it holds up really well. The facial animations obviously aren't perfect. Any game from that mid 2010s, you know how they look in terms of the facial animations, that little plasticky feel. But the game looks really good. Like, I was not expecting to be this impressed by it visually playing through. All the models really detailed, everything's animated well. I'm sure you know this based off of just any information at all you know about the game, but the game involves time travel. As I said, it's not a spoiler. It's literally in the first 2 seconds of the game. But the set pieces that involve this time manipulation just look awesome. I mean, there's some really cool, really interesting, just, moments where you stop and you're not so focused on, okay, I need to get from point A to point B, but you stop and you go like, whoa, this looks cool. And that's what I love to see in a game like this, a game that, takes a look at a really interesting topic like time travel. So I did think it was one of the better looking games in the entire Xbox One library. This isn't like a 2019 or 2020 release where games were getting, ready for next gen. They were leaning into maybe the One X hardware, to try and take advantage of. No, like, this game runs and looks good on the base Xbox One. My original playthrough a couple years ago was on the base Xbox One, and I'm like, man, that was a nice looking game. But moving on from visually, one thing real quick that I was a little disappointed in was the soundtrack and the sound design overall. A great soundtrack maybe could have given it a little more oomph, put it over the top. There's a small amount of original music for it, but literally the best or the most memorable songs in the game are copyrighted songs at specific points in the story. So it's like, that was one thing I was a little disappointed by. But moving on to something a lot more important, the gameplay aspect. Unfortunately, this is one of the most basic third-person shooters there is. If you just think of a third-person shooter, all right, I'm looking over this guy's shoulder, I aim down sights, I shoot, I move. That's literally the extent of this game. The cover mechanics are solid. When I get in cover or I go behind cover, my guy actually, puts his head down. But very, very simple and straightforward gunplay. I mean, this ain't Gears of War, you know what I mean? With, interesting guns, a fancy cover system, active reloading. No, there's a handful of guns. A few of them are just obviously overpowered. So you could literally just use 2 or 3 of them for the whole game. And it's, go into an encounter, aim, shoot, maybe sit in cover for 2 seconds, let your health heal. It's a really, really basic game in terms of gunplay. You do have some abilities, which are really cool. They feel powerful. They add some depth. They are introduced really quickly. So by the end of the game, you're wanting, some more stuff, maybe some more pizzazz, and it's not really there. Unfortunately, but whoa. Time out. You are not playing this game for the riveting gunplay. You are playing this game for the story. And as I said, I'm going to keep it spoiler free at this point of the review, so don't worry about that. But I thought the story was great. I was really I've said really, really 20 times already, but I was so impressed by the story because time travel, it's such a hard topic to cover, because most of the time when you're looking at time travel, there ends up being more questions than answers. You have convoluted explanations, stupid long exposition saying, oh, we just pulled an Uno reverse card and solved all the problems with time travel. It's really hard to pull off time travel. And I thought that Quantum Break was one of the most believable implementations of time travel that I've seen from any medium, any form of medium. Okay. Obviously, we know time travel is not a real thing, but it's to someone that knows nothing about, how the actual science behind time travel is in real life. You show them, the plot of this game, and it's like, wow, they really, dotted their I's and crossed their T's. Just a great implementation of that story, and as I mentioned earlier, the characters, great casting. The characters are fleshed out over time and offer some great depth that enhance the story. Because one of my favorite things to have in a narrative-driven game, a game that revolves around a story, is not having a generic bad guy. The worst thing is when it's, the bad guy is bad because he hates puppies, he kidnaps orphans, he's bad because he likes being bad. That's a boring villain. In Quantum Break, it's not bad guy is bad, but they show, here's what this character wants, here's why they want it, and how it conflicts with other characters. It's not he's a bad guy. It's, he's a character. Here's what he, wants. It obviously conflicts with the protagonist, and it leads to cool and interesting story moments. That's not like, we need to do this because he's bad, but, shoot, we need to do this. He's trying to do this. It makes the story so much more believable, because that's how people actually are. It's not like a thing where it's, this person is bad. Very rarely, obviously, but this person is bad because they're bad. But no, they have different wants and needs from you. But I will say, and this may be a drawback for some, a lot of this added story depth is through reading documents that are spread across each level. You know, you'll see something highlighted in the corner, you'll go to it, you'll press X or click on it, and it'll be a quick little few paragraphs. And I enjoyed this aspect of putting the pieces together, but I understand this obviously is not for everyone. You know, you'll still get a great story and experience without reading all that stuff, but those little extra readings and extra pieces really help the pieces fall into place more naturally. I mean, there's nothing better than, you know, reading all this stuff. You're like, oh, I don't know what's going on with the situation. And then, you know, you just start putting the pieces together and you can just see the pieces fall together in front of your eyes. It's awesome, you know, when it's not like, you know, spoon fed to you in a prologue of, you know, on this day at this time, this happened, and then this and this, you know what I mean? You're actually putting the pieces together yourself and you're watching the story evolve in front of you. And the studio also used one of my favorite elements in games. And it's not really an element. I'm just calling it an element because I couldn't really think of a better word for it. By removing the filler, the fluff. This is not a long game. You can crank through this game in under a dozen hours, easy, no problem. This is not, probably even under 10 hours. This is not a long game at all. There's nothing more annoying, you know, to me than doing mindless tasks in a story-driven game. You know, if you're trying to show me a cool narrative and I've got to do 6 hours of fetch quests through like a 25-hour story, that's not a 25-hour story. All right. It's like a 15-hour story with a ton of fluff. All right. There's basically no filler in this game. You know, every part of gameplay is necessary for the story. You know, it's, oh, I need to go from point A to point B, not just because it's, I need to go from point A to point B because my character is trying to do this. They're on this time frame. The villain is doing this. And, oh, there's, you know, bad guys here. So I obviously have to fight them because I'm on a time frame. Like, there ain't no filler in it. And I really, really appreciate it. Thank you, Remedy, for no filler, because that just makes me so sad. You know, if I'm starting to get engaged in a game and then they throw, you know, 2, 4, 6 hours of filler. They kept the filler to the bare minimum. But the most unique part of this game and the story is how they intersect it with the live TV show, you know, that I mentioned earlier. Because, you know, as I said before, you know, this isn't a well-animated or in-engine demo. This is literally a live-action show that I thought was executed really well. You know, they understood the limitations of the live-action segments. You know, obviously their budget is not going to... They're not a TV studio, you know. They're not trying to make these giant, cool live-action bits. No. The live-action bits existed to tell the story, you know, tell certain aspects of the story in a better, more unique way. And I thought that they did that just really, really well because they didn't set themselves up for failure, you know, with big CG elements or big sets. They kept it simple, you know, focusing on, okay, just on small, you know, character dialogue bits. I'm thinking through all the I want to call them cutscenes, but they're not cutscenes. All the shows right now, and there's very few moments that are like, oh, a car chase or oh, people running away. No, like it's all just intimate character moments. Okay, keeping it simple. You know, if you're watching a TV show, I don't want to pick on the CW, but I'm going to pick on the poor CW. Sometimes they bite off more than they can chew in some of these superhero things. You know, you're looking at their CG and you're like, man, this is a little rough. You don't have that problem in Quantum Break because they kept it really simple. They kept it simple. I'm just it's that simple. I'm just going to stop saying simple. I'm so sorry. But, you know, it brought more out of the story by making these characters feel more real, you know, because they were real. You know, I'm not watching a, you know, dude make a superhero landing and send a shockwave around that, you know, killed 25 enemies. I'm watching an actual guy talking to someone, running around, jumping over stuff. Like, it's believable because it was done for real. And it was really just, you know, I'm titling this a worthwhile experiment Because it was, obviously this is not like the new standard of games. This was in 2016. There ain't no Quantum Break 2 out by now. It ain't going to happen. But I did think it was something really unique that you just don't see very often. That was worth, taking a chance on. But overall, I really enjoyed my playthrough, and I definitely recommend this to fans of story-driven shooters. If you're someone that plays the combat to get to the story, give this game a shot. You know what I mean? It's on Game Pass right now, so if you are on Xbox or heck even PC, I mean, you can pick up either the trial, the $1 deal to start out, or during a holiday, you can get like 4, 5, 6 months of Game Pass for like a third of the price, just to give it a shot. There's plenty of good games on there. I'm not even sponsored by Microsoft. I'm just a happy Game Pass user. But when scoring story-driven shooters like this, the best games are the ones that combine the excellent gameplay with an excellent story. You can tell by my earlier comments, thought the story was great, executed really well, but you could also tell by my comments that literally were only like a minute long that the gameplay is nothing that great. You know what I mean? It's really bare bones, really basic. However, story is just so great. I'm going to give it a B+ overall. All right, it may be nitpicky. It may not be nitpicky to some. I think a B+ is a good range where I'm respecting, the time and effort they put into crafting a great story that I enjoyed and have a great time. But I also need to keep in mind, there's other games that have a great story, but also have, way more engaging gameplay, because the gameplay really isn't anything special. But as I said, very, very interesting concept for a game that I thought was executed about as well as it could be. So now I want to talk about my opinion, of the story and the characters. So if you haven't played this game, I highly, highly, highly recommend you leave now, you give it a shot. Maybe you come back later and listen to the last bit of this. Maybe you don't. That's fine. It's not a long game. You can finish it in well under a dozen hours. If you're leaving now, thank you so much for listening to Remap. My name is Jared. If you're still here, buckle up, because I'm literally about to go through the whole story, basically. All right, so get ready. So, as I mentioned earlier, wasn't my first playthrough. My first playthrough was, back in 2018, which the nice thing was it was long enough ago that I forgot all the nuance and all the details of the story. I obviously remembered the overall plot, so I remembered, the big plot points, big plot moments, but all the nuance and all the details I had forgotten about. So it was great being able to, see stuff unfold where I knew it was going, see some of the foreshadowing in the details, and Remedy really stuck to the time travel theories they crafted. The whole theories of you can't change the past. Anything that happens is going to happen. You can't change it. And if you go back and do something different, that only will cause it to happen. Really, really cool and well executed concept. All right. So, starting out, roll up at Riverport, see my friend. Oh, it's nothing crazy. It's nice little start. And I enjoyed that, if you go sit through Paul's spiel, his PowerPoint, you get an achievement. It's like, oh, hey, look at that little Easter egg. I can't believe I never got that in my first playthrough. I thought that was neat. But, then he's just like, hey, man, help me test my time machine. Why are there no red flags at this point? Who's just like, hey, you know what? Wow, you've been working on the time machine? That's great. I can't wait to see how it works. Just stop it. Of course, they turn on the time machine and there's a problem. What a surprise. Everything falls apart. You're escaping with your brother, yada, yada, yada. These first set pieces with time frozen, when you're trying to run out and you've got the Monarch soldiers, attacking you. Like, those are sick. Like, I'm going to keep saying this over the next few minutes. Like, the time when time is frozen, the game looks great. I mean, these set pieces really are cool. But then we get one of the coolest possible concepts for an antagonist, in my opinion. In that your friend, Paul, is the one in charge of Monarch. This man went back in time over 15 years. You saw him just go in, boop. That's like, oh, nothing big. Nope. This man went back in time over 15 years to build Monarch, which was such a cool way of writing the villain, because he's not really a villain. As you play through this game, you learn about why he's doing this stuff. He's trying to save humanity. Based on what he's seen, like he's seen the end of time. He sees that he needs to, build not build because he stole the CFR, but get all the lifeboat protocol together to save humanity. To him, he's not the villain. And to a lot of people, he's not the villain. That's why Monarch is doing so successfully. But if there was any way of expanding this prologue, the reveal that Paul was the villain, would have hit so much harder. Obviously, this is a game. There's no way of expanding the it's a third-person shooter. You can't expand the prologue to just be walking around town or chatting with people. But if this was like a full TV show where you could have, a lot more backstory, have like 3, 4, 5 episodes of backstory, this would have been a contender. Top 10 WatchMojo.com. We're talking anime plot twist, just stuff that will just knock you on your ass. Like, man, just imagine that your best friend, you go back a long ways, boom, he's the villain now. He's built this giant empire. Just, I love how they showed all this stuff from Paul's point of view. Both through the playable segments and through the story, because it makes him feel so much more than a generic villain. As I've said, there's nothing worse than a generic villain that's bad just because, I want to be bad. But we get to the start, once the live action bits start going, we get to the start of Liam Burke's drama. They had the cool bits where, you could pick which direction you wanted Serene to go in terms of strategies and at the end of different acts. Here, I rolled with the PR option. I felt it was the right call. It's what he would do in this situation. The logical decision, as some would say. But then, you got some more drama. Jack escapes, heads to Ground Zero. We've got introduction of Beth. I'm going to talk about Beth later. Don't worry, strap in. You got to wait until I talk about Beth, please. So we head to Ground Zero, super cool, super trippy, just seeing the time fly by you like that. But I love how William just straight up has a time machine in the old swimming pool. I guarantee you a kid would have just broken in and found it at some point. If you think about it, it's the most unbelievable thing that a giant time machine was just sitting in the middle of the city, for the last decade plus. But golly, this once you find this time machine, you're there with Beth. This is the start of what makes me just so mad with this game. You've got the video to Beth, the graffiti on the walls. People that have played this game know where I'm going with this. You're getting more information about time travel and that it's how it's a closed loop. As William says, you can't change anything in the past. But we get to the next junction. I go with Paul's plans for Monarch. Then Martin Hatch, makes the baller move of letting Jack go. Martin Hatch was one of, if not my favorite characters, just because, he was so mysterious. The documents that you read about him, he came to Monarch, he's been the head of it, the public head for a while, but there's like no info about him. He's this, tall, imposing figure, phenomenal actor. Just an absolutely incredible job by Lance Reddick. Golly, I had to rack my brain to remember it. But you know, the Act 3, we're flying through the game. Pretty brief. You know, head through the island, get through the gala, trust the doctor. In terms of, you know, Paul's motives, I'm gonna talk about Charlie in a little bit. I haven't mentioned Charlie so far. Golly, it's. I know that a team wrote a really compelling quality story when I just get upset with characters, you know, because it's like, golly, it for the most part, it means they're written well and their motives are clearly conveyed. But, you know, Hatch is a playa. I mean, that's the core of this. But we now we're finally through all this fluff, all this rambling, yada yada yada. We're getting to the best parts of the game. The bridge is probably the coolest moment in the game. Anyone that's played through knows exactly what I'm talking about. Everything's falling apart. I'm running through the chaos over road signs. It's just an awesome moment, and it's man, if they had a killer soundtrack over it, it would have slapped even harder. But I digress. As I said, super cool moment. So, you know, we're getting through all that. We're putting the machine together. You know, we get some cool exposition. You know, as the doctor's setting up the time machine. I really enjoyed reading all the documents and intel pieces, you know, just to build a better picture of the story. But why do you trust the doctor? Why do you leave her alone? Why are you just like, oh yeah, we kidnapped her and she's just going to trust us. We know nothing about her. We know nothing about her motives. And it's just like, oh yeah, it's fine. She's problem. And now I can finally talk. I have been waiting for the last 27 minutes to talk about poor Beth. She did not deserve what she got. Poor Beth. She didn't get to have a life. It's that simple. You know, she was a little kid in elementary school. Oh, wait, future you just gives you a little notebook that says, oh, here's all the stuff that's going to happen. So you know that I'm telling the truth. And then guess what? You don't get to have a life. You know, it's that simple. You know, no friends, no loved ones, no family. You spend your whole life just training and working towards this point in time. You know, when you're there with Jack, you're there with the doctor, you go into the time machine, and then boom, you're sent to the end of time, have to fight your way back, and you end up back in 1999. So then you have to spend 10 more years, even more alone and in hiding, only to get shot in the head when you finally think you have a chance for success. It is just such a terrible, depressing, sad story for poor Beth. It's just terrible. It makes me so mad because I am a sucker, okay, for a happy ending, all right, or for at least the option of a happy ending. You know, spoilers for BioShock. I'm about to say, game's really old. You should have played it by now. But the fact that in 1 and 2, you know, you can have a happy ending with the little sisters. You know, if you save them all, you get this great, awesome, happy ending. And it's the reason why I hated Infinite, all right? You know, because I don't get a happy ending. I don't have that option. And it's like, I wanted Beth to have the happy ending that she deserved from all that work. God, it's just terrible. So we're finally getting through to the end of the game. You know, Jack's running through Monarch Tower, one of the cooler levels, probably the coolest level in terms of, you know, a level with a lot of gunplay. You know, we find out Hatch is a super powered time dude, which explains how he smoked the guards in the in one of the last episodes, because like that explains a lot, and especially how Hatch gets like, you know, stabbed in the eye and then just walks away from it. Like, the dude's a playa. But I can talk about Charlie now. Charlie just he pissed me off because this guy clearly had no reason to help, but out of the kindness of his heart, he sacrificed himself. No, thank you. Just stop it. If you can't tell, I got a little salty with some stuff. But, you know, looking, taking a overall approach, a little holistic view, that meant I cared about the characters. The fact I'm this pissed off about Beth means that I cared about her character. I wanted her to succeed, and hats off to the team at Remedy for making me care. This is one of the reasons why I'm excited to play Control, now that the Series X update is out later this year, because it's the same voice actor. I thought she did a great job. But, just to wrap up the game, we get back to more Will. He completes all the things he needs to happen in that saving Will. Jack goes back in time, saves Will, completes the closed loop, as William would say. And then we save the city, yay, we saved the city with a pretty boss battle. It's funny, the boss battle, I died more times in the boss battle than the whole game, just trying to figure out like what the heck was going on and where I needed to run. But once you figure out, you just like run back and forth in the pool, it's not bad. It's a pretty boss battle. So that's the game. I mean, as I said, great game, great story, still salty. The ending, dumbest ending I've ever seen. Jack says to Beth, oh, I'm coming back for you. Did you listen to a word of the exposition in this game? Like, do you have ears? You can't change the past. You can't bring her back. I would love it if you could bring her back. I wanted the happy ending. Didn't get the happy ending for Beth, but, at least he saved the city. But, yeah. That's Quantum Break. A really interesting game with a really well executed time travel story, a really unique format of presenting it in a live action show, and some really meh gameplay that I didn't mind playing through because I had a blast with the story. So that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Jared. You've been listening to Remap, the gaming podcast, and have a wonderful rest of your day.